Hello RC friends, this is AWD. I'm going to take a minute and show you a shock rebuilding method that I've used the last couple of weeks that I thought worked pretty well. I'm not guaranteeing it's the best for you, but it's worked for me. It's been pretty leak free and I can get them consistently with no rebound, and more importantly for me, they're easy to build, they're quick. Starting off with an X-Ray T4 shock, just a standard aluminum short shock. I'm going to remove the cap. The shock actually has no air in it already, but take it apart just to show you how I'm doing this. I have the no foam. I'm not using any foam inside the cap, and I'm just using standard X-ray bladders at the moment. I'm pretty sure Christian over at RSD has some X-ray bladders in the works, and as soon as those are available, I'll be switching over to those because they were really useful on the 12. I like to use a microfiber cloth. I don't know why, but paper towels just seem to push the oil around, and the microfiber for some reason seems to absorb pretty well. So got a microfiber towel, kind of just clean the O-ring. I haven't had any problems with these O-rings tearing or cracking at all, and I've run them for several weeks at least. So this one seems to be good. It's not broken at all. I've got some oil in here. I'm not even going to empty this out. Let's see if we can get the camera over the top and show that there's oil in there. It's not focusing very well, but there's I guess the first step would be to put your oil in. Obviously make sure that you're moving the piston up and down and get your air bubbles out. There's no air bubbles in this one. I'm running some Associated 425 CST oil, and I just add oil up to the top. It's not terribly important as long as you get enough in there that it will bleed out when you're finished. I'm going to set that aside to show you how I assemble the cap before I put it on. This is a T4, so it's got the hole in the cap. On the earlier shocks we would drill a hole, and that would seem to help with rebound. I've got a pair of tweezers that work pretty well for kind of seating the bladder, make sure it stays in there. And I'm picky. I always line up the bleeder hole with the face of the shock cap. With the bleeder kind of set inside there, I'll just gently place the cap on the top of the shock, and you'll see some oil. I'm not sure if this is picking up or not, but you'll see oil kind of spill out of the bleeder hole there. And you kind of have to work slowly, go back and forth a little bit to find the first edge of the threads. Let's see if I can get that. There we go. And as you twist it down, I'll see a little bit of oil come out of that bleeder hole, and that's about when I'll start pushing up on the piston, and more oil will come out of that bleeder hole. I go all the way up with the piston with, I don't know, a thread or two of the cap onto the shock body. You'll see a bunch of oil leak out, and I just tighten it all the way. I used to be terribly particular about going slow enough and trying to make sure there's no rebound, but at this point I'm not going to be bleeding it from the top. This is just getting the cap on there. Some people might tell you not to go down all the way, and I'm not going to say they're wrong. I just do it differently. I'm going to tighten this as tight as my fingers will allow. Try to get some of this oil off here. I usually do this with the collar off just so I can make sure I get all the oil off. I don't like it when there's a bunch of oil on the shock. It picks up dirt and it just looks bush league, if you ask me. And at this point I'll just check to make sure that there's no bubbles in there. You'll feel them at the top, and sometimes if I have to, I'll turn it upside down and pull the piston the other way to see if I can feel the air bubbles moving through. But you'll notice there is a little bit of rebound in there, and trying to get rid of that. So what I'll do, this one doesn't have any air bubbles in it at this point. I'll turn the shock upside down, and I actually bleed it through the cap here, the lower cap. I'll unthread the lower cap, and 9 times out of 10 the spacer moves up with it, exposing the O-ring. Let's see if we can, yeah, the O-ring shows up there nice and neat. These O-rings probably have, I don't know, a month or two of racing on them, maybe a month. And these tweezers are not sharp. They're small tipped, but they're blunt at the end. You definitely don't want to tear the O-ring. But I just kind of poke at it until the O-ring kind of bubbles up. It comes out. And you'll see oil leak out, which is from that pressure of the oil underneath. And then I'll just slowly push down on the piston, and at this point on the other side where it's leaned over, you can see there's a bunch of oil there on the side. It's leaking out. And you'll notice that the piston stays compressed, and I'll just keep it compressed as I thread this back down. Probably would have been better to do this with a real camera and not my phone. Once it's seated, I'm just kind of slowly threading the two back together, and you'll notice there's a bunch of oil. But more importantly, you'll notice that when you compress the shock completely, it stays completely compressed. And you may not be able to tell on camera, but there is no air in this shock. It is dead and air-free. And even with my slow explanations, this took me maybe 5 minutes, 6 minutes. So at this point, I kind of get all the oil off. I'm pretty careful about checking my shock length, so I've got a pair of clamping shock pliers that I hold on to and measure my end-to-end distance. I think I've been running them at 57 millimeters lately, which is maybe a little more than the 9 millimeter gap. It might be 9.5 millimeters there. But everything's buttoned up and it's ready for a spring and ready for installation. Thanks for watching.